Good evening from New York. So, Governor, how was your trip? Our fifth story in the countdown, as we wondered aloud on this news hour last night, what could be so bad that the cover story, which had the governor of South Carolina hiking the Appalachian Trail on National Hike Naked Day, would be preferable to reality? Rather a lot, really. About a married Republican father of four coming clean at a news conference about his affair with a woman in Argentina, but only after he had been caught this morning arriving back in Atlanta on the flight from Buenos Aires, nowhere near the Appalachian Trail. Did I mention there are late-breaking emails from the governor to his mistress? This morning, a reporter from South Carolina's The State newspaper on hand to greet Governor Sanford as he arrived at Hartsfield International Airport in Atlanta on a flight from Buenos Aires. Not from Appalachia? The governor telling the reporter that he had decided at the last minute to go to South America to, quote, recharge after a difficult legislative session in which he had fought to turn down federal stimulus money and lost. Sanford telling the reporter that he had considered hiking on the Appalachian Trail, but said, quote, I said no, I wanted to do something exotic. It's a great city. The governor also telling the reporter that he had been alone on the trip. By 2:23 p.m. Eastern time, though, when he began recounting some of this conversation at his news conference, it quickly became clear that part of his story was about to change.
I told her about my love of the Appalachian Trail. I used to organize hiking trips. Actually, when I was in high school, I would get a soccer coach or a football coach to act as chaperone, and then I'd get folks to pay me $60 each or whatever it was to take the trip, and then off we'd go and have these great adventures on the Appalachian Trail. And I told her of adventure trips, both in college. I was a campus representative for Eastern Airlines and could fly free, which meant I'd fly different places around the world, get myself a job, carry $100 emergency money, and either find a job there with the locals and come back or come on home. Told about my years in Congress and early years in the governorship of different adventure trips of leaving and traveling different places, because what I have found in this job is that one desperately needs a break from the bubble, wherein every word, every moment is recorded, just to completely break. And I've found that to be true in trips to the farm or in trips other places further afield. And all of those things were true.
That chaperone idea, you dropped that why again? By saying that those things were true, the governor seemed to be implying there that other things he had said were not true. Rather a lot, really.
So all those things we talked about this morning were true, but they're not the whole story. And that's obviously why everybody's gathered here right now. And so let me lay out that larger story that has attracted so many of you all here. I'm a bottom line kind of guy. I'll lay it out. It's going to hurt, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. In so doing, let me first of all apologize to my wife Jenny and our four great boys, Marshall, Landon, Bolton, and Blake, for letting them down. One of the primary roles well before being a governor is being a father to those four boys who are absolute jewels and blessings that I've let down in a profound way. And I apologize to them. And I don't like apologizing in this realm, but given the immediacy of y'all's wanting to visit and my proximity to them, this is the first step in what will be a very long process on that front.
There's a front. What is the front? We rejoin Governor Sanford, already in progress.
I would secondly say to Jenny, anybody who has observed her over the last 20 years of my life knows how closely she has stood by my side in campaign after campaign after campaign, and literally being my campaign manager, and in the raising of those four boys, and in a whole host of other things throughout the lives that we built together. I would also apologize to my staff, because as much as I did talk about going the Appalachian Trail, and that was one of the original scenarios that I'd thrown out to Mary Neal, that didn't want to where I ended up. And so I let them down by creating a fiction with regard to where I was going, which means that I then in turn, given as much as they relied on that information, let down people that I represent across this state. And so I want to apologize to my staff, and I want to apologize to anybody who lives in South Carolina for the way that I let them down on that front.
Governor Sanford also apologizing to good friends, fellow lawmakers, his in-laws, and people of faith across the nation in that order, and he has not yet told us what he is apologizing for. But he just referenced God's law. Nearly 8 minutes after he started, rather a lot of minutes really, he finally got to the bottom line.
So the bottom line is this. I've been unfaithful to my wife. I developed a relationship with which started out as a dear, dear friend from Argentina. It began very innocently, as I suspect many of these things do, in just a casual email back and forth, in advice on one's life there and advice here. But here, recently, over this last year, it developed into something much more than that. And as a consequence, I hurt her. I hurt you all. I hurt my wife. I hurt my boys. I hurt friends like Tom Davis. I hurt a lot of different folks. And all I can say is that I apologize.
Emails, you say. Rare for political news conferences of this kind. Governor Sanford, now known as the Wild Bull of the Pampas, took the podium alone, his wife not standing at his side. Rarer still, the governor then took questions, the first one being whether he was separated from his wife.
Are you separated from the First Lady?
Well, I don't know how you want to define that. I mean, I'm here and she's there. I guess in a formal sense we're not, but what we're trying to do is work through something that we've been working through for a number of months now.
Did your wife and your family know about the affair before the trip to Argentina?
Yeah.
Are you
we've been working through this thing for about the last 5 months.
Yeah, Jenny Sanford, the missus, issuing a statement tonight saying that she had asked her husband to leave 2 weeks ago, adding that this trial separation was agreed to with the goal of ultimately strengthening our marriage, and that it had been her request that her husband keep the separation quiet. At the news conference, Governor Sanford had also been asked exactly how long he had been conducting his affair in Argentina. The answer that he had known the woman for 8 years, but that it was only last year that something else developed.
And we developed a remarkable friendship over those 8 years. And then, as I said, about a year ago, it sparked into something more than that. I have seen her 3 times since then during that whole sparking thing. And it was discovered, let me finish, 5 months ago. And at that point, we went into serious overdrive in trying to say, where do you go from here? So it had been back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And the one thing that you really find is that you absolutely want resolution. And so oddly enough, I spent the last 5 days of my life crying in Argentina, so I could repeat it when I came back here.
5 days at the governor and his staff, and they had everybody else believing that he was hiking on the Appalachian Trail. Governor Sanford was questioned about whether he had intentionally misled his staff about where he had been.
Let me be clear. I said that was original possibility. That, again, that is my fault in shrouding this larger trip. That's my fault.
Well, Appalachia, Argentina, they are close alphabetically. By contrast, emails from the governor to his mistress leaving little to the imagination, and one of them dated July 2008 and published for the first time tonight online by the newspaper The State, which had refrained from doing so since last December. Governor Sanford brags about being on Mr. McCain's shortlist for vice president last year, goes into explicit detail about the recipient's physical attributes, and concludes by saying, quote, "Despite the best efforts of my head, my heart cries out for you, your voice, your body, the touch of your lips, the touch of your fingertips, and even a deeper connection to your soul." And as he mentioned later, her tan lines. The governor has resigned as chairman of the National Republican Governors Association. He has not resigned as governor, even though one non-scientific newspaper poll has 65% of South Carolina readers saying he should, and even though any political future he might have has seemingly been redirected from possible Republican nominee for president to possible city office in Buenos Aires. Last night, we turned for comment to native South Carolinian Eugene Robinson of the Washington Post. We will again because, incredibly, it turns out Gene also used to live in Buenos Aires.